mics are open.
Okay. All right, so welcome back, everybody, to another week, another episode of my show. I'm Jordan, and this is Taking Different Perspective, where I talk, discuss, review, and analyze all things film and media. So right now, we're like, I would say, a little more than waist deep in the summer movie blockbuster season. So that, of course, means that there are still a bunch of movies that have come out and that I need or should review. Now, one of those movies on June 22nd actually came out. It's I don't know if we'll call this the fifth installment of the Jurassic Park franchise or the sequel to Jurassic World, but yeah, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom finally premiered on that day. This was a highly anticipated movie. The first one was a big hit. It broke a bunch of records. I actually remember at the time when the first one came out, meaning Jurassic World, I was actually working at a movie theater at that point in time, and I remember that this was one of those movies that actually stayed in theaters a lot longer than the average movie, and I remember that it stayed in theaters a lot longer than what I had expected. And so, yeah, there was a lot of hype that was leading up toward this movie. And so I was like, I guess I should go ahead and talk about this movie. Now, besides that, right, seeing as though, there are a lot of movies that have come out, and even though I have seen a good number of those movies, there are still a bunch of movies that are out or that I haven't seen and that I know that I could have seen within this past week and that I could have talked about within today's episode. But guys, I'm going to be completely and totally honest with you. Doing straight reviews for basically the past month is starting to feel a bit stale to me. If you are an avid viewer of this show, or if you were to go back and just look at all of the episodes that I've done this far, then you would know, or you would see that one of my goals for the show is that I really try to diversify my content as much as possible. Well, at least from week to week. So if one week I do a review, then I try to make sure that the following week I do something other than a review. But seeing as though I am a movie lover and seeing as though this show revolves around that love, it's like, what kind of movie buff would I be and what kind of show would this be if I didn't discuss the things that are currently making waves in the industry week after week? And so, with us being in the summer movie blockbuster season, of course, I have to talk about these summer movie blockbusters. But like I said, 4 weeks of just straight reviews is a lot for me. And so I wanted to switch things up. And so besides today being a review episode where I will be talking about Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, I thought that I would also go ahead and kind of talk about some industry current event topics, or as I like to call them, I.C.E topics. So going ahead and getting into this review, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom stars Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, Rafi Spell, Justice Smith, James Cromwell, Daniela Pineda, and Isabella Sermon. And the movie is basically about a bunch of dinosaurs that are living on this island, but then when it becomes known that a volcano on that island is due to erupt, which then means that the dinosaur species is again has the possibility of facing extinction, you have Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard's character, as well as some other new characters that were introduced to us in this movie that come together to try to rescue, or at the very least save, some of the dinosaurs. Now, initially speaking, though this was a pretty hyped and anticipated movie, I honestly could not have cared less about this movie. Y'all loved the first Jurassic World. I didn't. I mean, I don't remember my exact thoughts about the first Jurassic World, but I do remember seeing it and then seeing everyone's reactions to it and all the records that it was breaking and thinking to myself, why? Like, to me, it was one of those regular old action movies, except it was with dinosaurs, and there was just nothing that was really spectacular about this movie about that movie, to the point where, it really separated itself from all of the other big budgeted Hollywood spectacle movies that I had already seen before. And so, yeah, like when I saw it breaking all these records and seeing all the praise that it got, I was pretty dumbfounded. I was like, this is the movie that's going to get all of that? I mean, I guess. But yeah, so I definitely think that, from the first Jurassic World, that definitely affected my, my view of any follow-up movies that were to come. And so, once it was confirmed that this Jurassic World movie, Fallen Kingdom, would be coming on a specific day, and once the trailer came out and we had all the promo and things like that, I honestly didn't bat an eye. I didn't rush to watch the trailer. I wasn't excited about this movie, and I, in all honesty, really had no plans to see it. This was one of those movies where it was like, if I see it, then I see it. If I don't, then I don't. I really did not feel compelled to see this movie that much. But once I saw the trailer, I'm not gonna lie, it did pique my interest a little bit, but it still wasn't to the point where, like I said, like I was extremely excited for this movie. And so I finally saw it, and I have to say that with all that being said, that I actually like the movie. This isn't to say that the movie itself is amazing, right? There are still some pretty big flaws in this movie. This isn't one of those blockbuster movie that's also like a really good quality film. It's like I said, it still has its flaws, but I mean, I liked it. Now, I wanted to preface all of this by saying that my knowledge and my experience with the other Jurassic movies isn't as extensive as someone that remembers seeing the first one in theaters and has grew up with the franchise. With the first one, it came out back in 1993, and I know that was a big moment in cinematic history. That was the first time that we were really seeing the power of CGI, right? And so I know that I've seen the first Jurassic World, but I honestly cannot tell you when it was the last time that I actually saw this movie. In terms of the second one, that is one that I have seen within recent years, but again, I don't really remember my thoughts about that one either. The third one, I know that I've seen it, but the only thing that I really remember about it is that I believe William H. Macy's in it, so you can kind of take from that what you will. And then the fourth one, I mean, you all already know my thoughts on that, and so now we're here. Now, and so, yeah, as you can see, like my interest in this franchise or series or whatever you want to call it isn't nearly as high as someone that, that remembers where they were when they saw the first one in theaters, or, if they actually grew up with those movies. But like I said, I still like the movie. And I do think that, because I didn't have the best view of the first Jurassic World, and because I really didn't go into this particular movie with any high expectations or anything like that, that it did affect my overall viewing of the movie. Now, right off the bat, one of the things that I wanted to talk about that I actually did like about the movie was the suspense. The movie itself is kind of split up into two movies, and I think that is a flaw of the movie, that it does feel like after a certain point you are kind of watching two completely different movies. But I did find like that whole first act, so everything that happens on the island, I found all of that to be pretty entertaining and also really suspenseful. When that whole scene with the dinosaurs and the characters as they're running on the island trying to get away from the erupting volcano, I really enjoyed it, even though there were some dumb decision moments that happened in that act, and then there were also some moments, logistically speaking, that you would probably be watching and seeing in the theater and thinking, how is this even possible? Overall, like I said, I found it to be pretty entertaining and really suspenseful. Also, within that first act, I thought that there were some great visuals as well. There's a point in time where this character was framed on screen by something. Now, I don't know if it was, like some kind of apparatus or some kind of technological thing that was built, or whether it was like a plant or something. I can't remember, but the character was framed on screen by something that was made to look like dinosaur teeth. And I thought that was a great way of foreshadowing the danger that was for sure to come. And then when all of the characters were actually able to make it off of the island, and they look back and they see, the volcano basically engulfing the island, I thought that was a great emotional moment. Now, besides that, another thing that I liked about the movie was the ethical dilemma that was presented to us. So on the one hand, you have people that want to try to save these dinosaurs because, even though they are dinosaurs and even though the humans made these dinosaurs, they're here and they're alive. And so to these people, they're basically like, well, doesn't that count for something? They believe that because these dinosaurs are alive and because they're roaming the earth, that should guarantee them some kind of rights. Whereas on the other hand, you have people that are looking at the situation and they're like, bruh, these are dinosaurs and we're humans. Maybe the best idea in terms of the future of humankind is to just kind of let nature run course and let this volcano take these dinosaurs out. And so I'm glad that they had introduced that kind of dilemma, but I also do think that that also presents another flaw of the movie, which is, even though they presented the dilemma, that's pretty much all they did with the dilemma. Like they presented it to us in the beginning and then at the very end, but they don't really explore it anywhere else in the movie, especially, well, I can at the very least say that in the way that I would have hoped that they would have. So yeah, I do kind of feel like they dropped the ball on that. I also do think that kind of flaw also ties back into, the flaw that I've already kind of talked about with the movie kind of feeling like two different movies in one, where I do think if you were to throw in this ethical dilemma aspect of the movie as well, it could be argued that the movie feels like it's split up into three different movies. Now, when it does come to, the second and third plots of the movie, so, the last half of we'll say basically everything that happens after the island. I do think that that is where the movie does start to kind of go downhill. You know, it does turn into your run-of-the-mill action movie with a diabolical villain that's using technology as a way to make a bunch of money, you know, who doesn't really have a clear motivation outside of the fact that he's a bad guy. So there's nothing that's extremely original there. But I do think that, you know, one of the biggest things that does save, you know, that part of the movie or the rest of the movie is the other villain in the movie, and that being the antagonistic dinosaur that gets introduced to us, which is known as the Indoraptor. I thought that that was a, you know, really cool dinosaur, and that it created the right kind of terror that it was meant to create. Now, speaking of dinosaurs, I would have to say another flaw of this movie is the fact that basically all the dinosaurs outside of the Indoraptor were basically relegated to the back burner. And again, I do think that kind of ties back into, I guess you could say, the overall flaw of the movie, with it feeling like there are different movies inside of this one movie. But yeah, I wish that we were able to get more dinosaurs. Now, granted, I do understand that, you know, that the way that this story is set up, that we weren't going to have a bunch of dinosaurs in this movie after a certain point. But like I said, I like that first act, and I like seeing all those dinosaurs. And, you know, like I said, it was really suspenseful and things like that. But yeah, it just felt like after a certain point in the movie, the filmmakers were just like, okay, yeah, we're just going to worry about the Indoraptor and just forget about these other dinosaurs that we could still possibly put into the movie at some point. So yeah, I wish that there was more dinosaurs, because this is Jurassic World, you know what I mean? Now, besides that, in terms of the characters, I would say that, you know, the reasons that they decided to bring back Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard's character, so Owen and Claire in the movie, I thought that those reasons that they came up with were pretty lazy, and that they could have been done a lot better. I mean, if you're familiar with the first Jurassic World, when they tell you the reasons as to why they're bringing back these characters, you're probably going to be thinking to yourself, couldn't they have just done X, Y, and Z, or why is this the reason that they're bringing them back? So yeah, I thought that that could have been done a lot better. Now, in terms of other characters, you know, I have seen people talking about how the two characters that were introduced to us that were a part of the mission, that they were extremely unneeded, and I've also seen people saying that one was extremely annoying, and I would have to say that I can agree. But I also did want to give basically a shout out to Justice Smith. He plays one of the new characters in the movie. And the reason as to why I wanted to give him a shout out, because I don't know, I think that he plays that nerdy, awkward, annoying character really well. So yeah, I just wanted to give him his props. But I mean, in terms of basically all the other characters except for Owen and Claire, I do think that a lot of them were unneeded, a lot of them were lazily used, and a lot of them were lazily introduced. There's this one character in the movie, he's meant to be this he's a military guy that's meant to be basically another kind of antagonistic force in the movie, but he really does nothing for the movie. There is this one scene that he's a part of that is, I would have to say, like a memorable scene in the movie, but overall, like he really, like I said, he really did nothing for the movie. Now, in terms of another character, so the girl in the movie, I thought that she was lazily written, lazily introduced, and also lazily used. She really, honestly, like, did nothing for me. Like, when I say that I really did not care about this little girl in the movie, I really mean that I did not care about this little girl in the movie. Now, even though she isn't as unneeded as the other characters, because, you know, she does play an integral role at some point in the movie, it does feel like her character is more of a plot device rather than a character that we're actually supposed to, like, meant to have feelings for. It did feel like the filmmakers were basically like, okay, well, the filmmakers in the studio, really, because now this feels like the studio was kind of, you know, interfering into this movie a little bit too much. But it felt like they were like, okay, you know, we need for a certain thing to happen in this story so that another certain thing can basically happen in the overall Jurassic Park franchise. And so they were like, okay, like, let's go ahead and use a kid. Like, it felt really lazy to me. And then when it came to again, the reasoning behind the importance for her character, all of that felt really random. Like, I felt no real connection or sympathy for this little girl when everything that was revealed about her was revealed in the story. To me, it felt like, well, even though I'm sure that there were, you know, hints that were thrown throughout the movie, when it was finally revealed, it felt like the writers just kind of threw that in there and were like, okay, like, let's go and talk about something else. Like, it felt, I don't know. I really did not like this little girl, and I felt that she could have been utilized a lot better, or maybe, I don't know, just have a totally different character. And so, I mean, yeah, overall, I have seen people, or I should say, I have seen one person that essentially kind of describes this movie as it feeling like a filler movie that, you know, was meant to take the franchise in a direction that the studio wants for it to go in. And I can see that. But like I said, overall, I enjoyed this movie. Like I said, it's not the best thing, but you know, I walked out of the movie pretty satisfied. You know, this second one is definitely bigger than the first Jurassic World. I think that it's better than the first Jurassic World. So, you know, if you like the first one, then you will probably like this one. I do have to say though that, you know, if you are a fan of the Jurassic Park franchise, or, you know, if you grew up with those movies, or if you are just a movie buff yourself, right, and you know what to look for when it comes to good and bad movies, you may have a different feeling about the movie, because like I said, there are still flaws about it. But I mean, to me, this is one of those blockbuster movies that, you know, I don't think it would hurt if you went to go see it. So why not go see it? So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the I.C.E topics segment. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the possibility of Meryl Streep, Emma Stone, Saoirse Ronan, and Timothée Chalamet all starring in another movie adaptation of Little Women that will possibly be directed by Greta Gerwig. Now, even though the news surrounding this movie is about how, you know, all these people are in talks to be a part of this movie, I have to say that if everybody that they're saying is in talks to be a part of this movie is going to be a part of this movie, I will definitely be seeing this movie. Like this movie already has my money. I mean, you know, they're giving me the Queen Meryl Streep, they're giving me my boo Emma Stone, and then they're giving me the young legends Saoirse Ronan and Timothée Chalamet. And yes, I'm calling them legends because they are already at the top of their game, in all honesty. And you know, they only have you know, up. Like they can only move up. But yeah, and then, you know, having Greta Gerwig be a part of this movie, it's like, you know, what more could I want out of a movie? I mean, I'm sure I could probably think of some things, but I feel like if I were to ask for more, that it would just, you know, that I would be asking for too much. And so yeah, but I mean, already this feels like too much. You know, they gave me Meryl and they gave me Emma, but then, you know, to throw the young bloods in there and all that kind of stuff, it's like, it's like, what did I do to deserve this kind of movie? Like, I'm so excited for this movie. Now, as far as this movie being another Little Woman adaptation, like there have been movie adaptations of this story before. I mean, it is what it is. I do remember reading this book back in elementary school. So I do remember some things, but, you know, I wasn't sitting at home, you know, hoping and praying for another movie adaptation of Little Women. So the story isn't the thing that's pulling me in. It is definitely the cast. Now, apparently Sony, you know, has had this movie in the works for some time now. And Greta Gerwig was actually brought in initially to help rewrite a draft of the script. But once Lady Bird came out, and with the success of that movie, you know, Sony was really trying to do everything that they can, you know, to bring Greta Gerwig on as director. So I'm pretty sure that Greta is going to be directing the movie. But like I said, nothing has really been solidified just yet. So my fingers are crossed that, like I said, everybody that is in talks to be a part of this movie is able to be a part of this movie, because I'm ready to give this movie all of my money, like for sure. Now, moving on to, let's talk about this Lee Daniels and Dame Dash situation for a quick second. Now, I don't know what's funny about this whole thing. I mean, besides the fact that Dame pulled up on my mans in public, he pulled up on my mans in public at a Diana Ross concert, which at the time of the video is actually going on. Like, you can hear Diana Ross in the background getting ready to sing her song Reach Out and Touch, which is already ironically funny in and of itself. I mean, here you have this friend that reached out and helped another friend, but then you have the friend that's sitting here ducking the other friend like Stewie did Brian on Family Guy. Like, it's too much. And then you have Lee Daniels that's in the crowd, you know, wearing this green snuggie and his hands are clasped together like he's about to, you know, say Thanksgiving prayer at the dinner table. And then you have like this guy that's standing behind Dame Dash and Lee Daniels that's trying to act like what's happening in front of him really is not happening in front of him. I mean, I have to say he's better than me, because if that was me, if I was the guy, I would have been all up in their business. I would have been like that girl that was that lady that was in the background of that whole Joe Budden and Migos situation. Like, I would have been like, what is going on? But yeah, so I definitely would have had all the details from that. But Yeah, for anyone out there that doesn't know the details behind the situation, Dame Dash loaned Lee Daniels apparently he loaned him $2 million as a way of helping him fund projects like The Woodsman and Shadowboxer when no one else in Hollywood was really giving him money to make projects. And this is after the success of his movie Monster Ball, which, if you didn't know, that is a movie that Halle Berry actually won an Oscar for. And so this was all before Precious, but, you know, I really wasn't familiar with those two movies, and seeing as though I wasn't really familiar with those two movies, I'm sure that a lot of you out there were not familiar with these two movies either. And so, yeah, as you can tell, those movies were not as successful as, you know, everybody that was involved in them had hoped. And so at that point in time, right, the money was not there. Lee Daniels was not, you know, able to pay Dame Dash back because, you know, the movies weren't successful. But then Precious happened, then The Butler happened, and then Empire happened. And so after a certain point, the money was there, but Lee Daniels wasn't, because he has apparently been ghosting Dame Dash for some time now. And so Dame got tired of it. He was like, you know what, if you're not going to give me my money, if you're not going to hit me up to tell me when you are going to give me my money, and if you're going to keep ducking me in public and not showing up in places where I think that you're going to be, then I'm going to show up where I know that you will be, and that is at a Diana Ross concert. Which, how did Dame Dash even know that Lee Daniels was going to be there? Like, was he stalking him? Like, was this on some kind of mafia type thing? Like, what was it? I don't know, but this whole thing is just, it's a mess. And so, yeah, like I said, Dame Dash showed up. Lee Daniels didn't know what to do. And so apparently now Dame has officially sued Lee Daniels for the $2 million plus interest. Because, all right, it's like, you had me waiting for my money, so of course I'm gonna get more. But apparently this actually isn't the first time that Dame Dash has sued Lee Daniels. This all goes back to 2014. When Dame had basically sued Lee Daniels for the same thing. But this does include more movies like Precious, The Butler, and The Paperboy, which Dame Dash says that he has had basically a similar involvement in those movies, like he did with, what was it, the Woodsman and Shadowboxer. And so back in 2014, moving on to 2015, apparently they had struck up a settlement agreement, but Lee Daniels never paid up. And so, yeah, this is something that has been going on for a while now. And so, you know, since everything has finally come out and everything, you know, happened in public and people now know about it, Lee has come out and said that he does plan to pay Dame Dash back. And this is a quote. He said, you know, we're going to squash it, and I feel good about it. He needs it right now. Which, side note, I don't know Dame Dash's current financial situation, but that little statement, he needs it right now, definitely sounds like shade. But I mean, like I said, I don't know his current financial situation, but yeah. And then he went on to say, you know, I'm happy to help him because he was helping me. So yeah, Dame Dash, hopefully you finally get your money. Now going ahead and moving on, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Terry Crews. Within this past week, he testified in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee to advocate for the Sexual Assault Survivors Bill of Rights, which is basically meant to establish rights for sexual assault survivors. You know, with this whole Me Too movement, Terry has definitely become one of the biggest fighters on the front line. I do think that that's amazing. You know, here he is, a man that's out here trying to, you know, really get rid of that stigma, that idea that men themselves cannot be the victims of sexual assault, and to see him, you know, really fighting for that, I think that's amazing. But I mean, besides that, I also love that he understands, you know, just the real truth of these kinds of situations, and how his being, you know, a big Black man would have changed perception of the assault had he reacted in a way that I'm sure that he wanted to, and as I'm sure a lot of people would have wanted to in that situation. But yeah, for anyone else, but I did want to say that for anyone out there clowning him, or for anyone out there that's questioning his manhood because, you know, he didn't react in a certain way, just know that you are a part of the problem. And I'm sure that me saying that to you, if you are one of those people that's been doing that, really does not faze you. But yeah, I just wanted to say that you are part of the problem and that you are trash. And that's pretty much all that I have to say about that. Now, lastly, what I wanted to talk about, or I guess kind of give a shout out to, is Jordan Peele and his production company Monkey Paw. They have recently hired a woman named Camille Oshundara, who will specialize in academic and cultural research, with her work woven into storylines and character development. Now, part of her work will make sure that the content that Monkey Paw is producing is quote unquote critically conscious. And so one of the first projects that she will apparently be overseeing is a stop motion animated feature called Wendell and Wild, where Jordan Peele and Keegan Michael Key will be voicing the title character. So yeah, apparently this kind of role isn't something, apparently it's pretty unique. Like this isn't something that you see a lot of when it comes to production companies. And so, yeah, I think that's really great that Jordan Peele has created this kind of role. And then the fact that, you know, that it's a Black woman that is at the center of this role, I think is just, it's even better. So yeah, I wish her nothing but the best. And I'm excited to see, you know, all these future projects from Jordan Peele's production company, Monkey Paw. And so with that being said, that will go ahead and end today's episode. You know, if you enjoyed or liked what you heard or saw today, I do this show every week, 12:30 to 1 every Tuesday. I've done 51 other episodes thus far. So like I said, if you liked what you saw or heard and you don't want to wait until next week, there are a bunch of other episodes, 30-minute episodes that you can watch. Now, in terms of next week's episode, it's still blockbuster season, so I think I'm going to go back to, well, I know that I'm going to go back to reviewing movies. Well, the entire episode is going to be dedicated to new movies that are going to be coming out. So yeah, make sure that you're on the lookout for that. In terms of today's episode, if you had any comments, questions, or concerns about anything that I talked about today, please hit me up. I'm always down to have conversations, whether it's on Facebook. You can hit me up at Jordan, CHISLEY, or on Twitter at Jordi, JORDI reviews. And yeah, we can talk about whatever. Now, with that being said, that will end today's episode, and I will see you all next week. All right, bye.